Hey, Tucker. My friends and I we just laugh like you. That's one of the things we like to do.
So
Yeah, exactly like that.
You got a touch of the demented, too. That's good.
That's exactly right. So I guess that's the question, honestly. You maybe see more than the average person, expose yourself more to the average person. How do you keep from being jaded, so positive? We actually watch you because you're positive, because you laugh, because you see things like just with a good light. At least that's how we view it. Just wondering what you do either in your personal life or, yeah, how you stay that way.
Such a great question. I mean, it's so funny. I had this long dinner with old friends of mine last night, and we're all, in our mid-50s, and your parents die, and you reach kind of peak expenditure with all your many children going to all these stupid schools, at overpriced schools. And it's a hard time. If you can make it past like 56, life gets better. And all the surveys show that people are much happier in their 60s if they survive than they are in their 50s, and much happier than their 40s. And then add to that, and I'm not whining at all. I am happy, you're right. I do get a constant stream, really a torrent of like lunacy through my phone. I don't go on the internet that much, but I text with hundreds of people, and a lot of what they tell me is true. And so it does weigh on me, and I would say I have a whole program for that. And it's really simple. Staying cheerful, staying positive, staying clear-headed. I take a sauna every single day. I have a lot of dogs. They sleep in the bed. I spend a lot of time with my dogs. I get outside every single day. I hunt and fish, try every day, if I can. And you make less money when you spend a lot of time outside. That's okay. But more than anything, I really care about my family. I think it's worth, especially if you have a job where people you don't know are judging you, it's so important. But even if you don't, it's so important to remember and repeat it as a mantra that the opinions of people you don't know mean nothing. And I always think it's like dogs barking, but actually when my dogs bark, I care. It's less than dogs barking. Never hand emotional control to people who don't love you. It's like handling a toddler a firearm. Why would you do that? You wouldn't. You'd be insane. And so if you just take all of your emotional energy and focus it on the people in your orbit, and if you're not married with children, focus on your siblings, your parents, your cousins, your coworkers, your employees, yes, your dogs. But keep your circle, the circle of people whose opinion you care about, really small. Ignore everybody else and pay very close attention to what they think. So in my case, obviously I'm one of the most hated people in the world, and that causes me zero stress. I could care less. I don't care. No, I mean it. No, I'm not just saying that. I think it's obvious. I really don't care. However, if my wife were to say, I don't really like what you're doing, it would bring me to my knees. So it's in other words, everybody cares what other people think. Make the decision about who you hand that power to. And in my case, I've handed it all to my wife, my 4 children, my college roommates, the people who are my employees, the people who are closest to me, right there. I really care what they think. I really sincerely do. I listen to them carefully. It means something, their praise, which I don't get very often, but if I do, it means a lot. Their criticism is devastating. I put all my eggs in the basket of the people who love me, and no eggs at all in the countless baskets of people who hate me or who I don't know. Why would I care what you think? Honestly, why would I care? Let's just try to be rational about this. And the last thing I'll say is one of the reasons our political class is so disgusting is because they're all so emotionally damaged and they look at life backward. Most people get into politics, not just in this country, but in all countries, not simply to wield power and get rich through corruption, though those are motivating factors, I can promise you, but because they have a desperate need to be loved by people they don't know. They can't wait to receive the adulation of strangers. And almost all of them have absent or alcoholic fathers to whom they're trying to prove something. I mean, they're damaged from childhood. I grew up in a broken home, actually, but I have an extremely close relationship with my father, always have. I revere him. And that's been a massive advantage for me, despite my disadvantages. That's been a huge thing for me. But regardless of your childhood, you just have to make the decision that you care about the people who care about you. And that's all you care about. And if you don't do that, you'll become a captive to insecurity, self-hatred. And what does self-hatred give way to every single time? Hatred of others, 100%. People who hate themselves hate you too. They do. And they'll mistreat you 100% of the time. And so politicians are almost, not all, and I know them all, I will say that, but they're almost all self-selected from the group of emotionally damaged people whose key desire, overwhelming, overriding desire, is to be loved by strangers. And that's the darkest sickness of all. I mean it. And that's why their behavior is so unbelievably screwed up and pathetic. And when you talk to them, last thing I'll say, like, you know that, like, I've gotten so old and crazy that I just assess people on the basis of their relationships at this point. And if your wife doesn't respect you and love you, and if your kids don't respect you, and if your employees think you're horrible, and you don't tip the waitress, I'm not your friend. And I mean that. Like, that's who knows you, is the people in your immediate orbit. And we believe this so much in my house that we don't even give to charity anymore. Any nonprofit charity, period. We haven't taken a tax deduction on a charitable contribution in a long time, and my wife is a fervent Christian, so we're giving 10%. But we give it all to people we know in our orbit. And so my view is, you know, I'm sure Feed the Children is a great charity or whatever. There are a million of them. But does my housekeeper need a new car? How could I possibly justify giving mosquito nets to kids in Congo if my housekeeper's in need? I mean that. I couldn't. And that's a reflection of my view that you're put on this earth to serve the people right around you. And anytime someone talks about effective altruism or helping people he's never met and never will meet, and the consequence of that help will never be recorded, and he doesn't even care what those consequences are, that's the most dangerous person in the world. Because his giving, his charity, is totally disconnected from actual people. And so when this effective altruism insanity, which is totally evil, came out, is evil masquerading as good, it always is. This came out, we're gonna help, we're gonna maximize our effective, headline, I'm a very good person, much better than you. No, you're probably, in fact, you're certainly a horrible person. And by the way, give me your wife's text, I wanna find out what she thinks of you. And 100% she has contempt for him, because he's a crappy husband, because he's a crappy man, because he's ignoring the people around him in favor of helping people whose names he doesn't know in order to self-aggrandize. That's just a syndrome. As my father used to say when I was growing up about the Soviets, they loved the people but hated people. And that is an absolute thing. And you see it on the left. I'm sorry. I don't want to be partisan because I hate the Republicans so much. I almost don't want to make any partisan statements at all because I hate them all. But it is a feature of the left. I'm giving my life over to the people. Really, which people? Where, do you have their addresses? How are they doing? They don't care. It's totally abstract. There's no such thing as abstract love. You can't love any group of people. In fact, I don't even believe in groups of people. It's all a lie. There are people with names and fingerprints and unique histories and desires and weaknesses that need bolstering. Like, they're individuals, and that's all there is. God doesn't create groups of people at once. No woman ever gave birth to a community. It's all bullshit. All that matters are people. Ha! Thank you.
Younger people say the news is full of lies.
In Kennedy's motorcade.
239 people. The death of Jeffrey Epstein.